right, and that leads us right into session number 4. And so here we go. We've got Kathleen, Katie, and Katie. I'll let you all start it.
Thanks, Steve. I'm going to share my screen as we get ready. All right. All right, welcome everyone. You should be able to see one of our little fellas with a mask on. So we're going to switch up the PowerPoint presentation and background today. Are we good there? Let me make sure my chat box. And Kathleen and Katie, I'm going to have you guys watch the chat box because it's not pulling up on my computer. But welcome. We are the last session between you guys getting to experience our awesome cap note and then heading home or to your other room, depending on where you're viewing this today. We are talking today about leading from a social distance.
Hey, Katie, I still see Steve's screen.
No, Steve.
Sorry.
Nope. I can't see the chat box, so.
We got you on that.
Let's see. Okay. Let me see if this works. All right, can you see that one? No. Hold on, I think my tech team is coming.
Jenny says it's working on YouTube.
There it goes.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay, so we're good.
And for good, buddy.
Okay, awesome. We're Hendrix, Boone, and Marion are having a watch party. So this is not my computer and this is not my office. So thanks to the tech team coming in from the other room for that. All right, so let's try that again. We're talking today about leading from a social distance. My name is Katie Sweet. I am the 4-H Youth Development Extension Educator in Hendrix County. Kathleen, I'll have you go, and then Katie.
I'm Kathleen Bodie from Hamilton County.
And I'm Katie Whiteford, the 4-H in Clark County.
So our presentation today, we are hoping that you walk away with new way to get engagement from your 4-H members virtually. And we're hoping that you leave feeling a little bit more confident about some online platforms and online options. So we are going to talk about what 2020 has done to some of our club meetings. We're going to go over some in-person meeting options for this coming year, as well as some hybrid options and some tips on doing a virtual option as well for your 4-H meetings, workshops, events, whatever you are in charge of in your home county. So I'm going to toss it over to Katie.
Okay, so for those that are at a watch party, my activity is not a fun gift of a spinner or biosecurity in a bag, but it is a safety kit for your club meeting. So while that might not be exciting, it is exciting to see how we can have in-person meetings and be safe about it. So the host sites were able to get these, and we just want you to know that you can work with your office or your club itself and come up with your own safety kit to provide to use at your clubs. These kits come with masks, hand sanitizers, thermometers, gloves, and things like that we know that you're going to need to have a COVID safety club meeting. And these might keep developing and changing over time. So maybe in the near future, we won't need a thermometer anymore. But as we think about sanitizing and realizing what we have to sanitize today, we are kind of in the realization that those sanitizing wipes and that hand sanitizer maybe been something that we kept in our club kits all along, realizing that all these kids are coming together from all over our counties and meeting and getting together. So the sheet that Katie has up on the screen, if you are in the host parties, those are available for you as handouts. If you are at home watching virtually, you can get those from the site that Katie just pulled this up on and utilize this if you want to, or make changes to it. COVID to fit your meetings. But this is just a check sheet to use with the kit to kind of go through what you might need to keep your COVID in-person safety meeting with that. And it gives a list of the thermometer. Attendance sheet is important, of course, as we're dealing with COVID and our tracing. And then it also lists the other items in there and why or where we might utilize those. And then there is another handout that Katie kind of pop up on the screen, but it kind of helps you as a club leader and a volunteer decide what type of club meeting you want to have this year. And Katie and Kathleen are going to go more into depth on a couple of those topics. But it is a tier form to kind of help you understand what your pandemic club meeting may look like. And again, we don't know in the future what those might be, but if you do want to meet in person, remember at the very top, it says, do you have a COVID safety plan? And so I'm sure you've heard your extension educators and your extension offices talk about these. This is crucial to work with your educators to have these approved so you can eventually meet in person once they are. And we are strongly encouraging you to do that hybrid meeting, which we will get more in depth on, which will include those kids that maybe don't feel comfortable coming out. But remember, our kids are in school and some are quarantined. So that keeps our quarantine kids included because they are being respectful of everyone and staying in quarantine. We also want to make sure that they get those 4-H opportunities and stay included with our clubs and the information that's going on. And then it kind of just tiers down to explain the rest of how your club would work with hybrid and COVID. And then it gives you some tips and tricks on what it looks like to have a socially distanced club and to make sure that we are following all those guidelines. So when we had a mini 4-H club this week, for example, the kids made their own snacks because that's part of our learning experience, and we made Oreo cookies. Each food kit was pre-prepared in its own unit and baggie and handed to each individual unit or child or family units for them to utilize. And then of course, hand sanitizing, hand washing is all included. So sometimes it takes a little bit of creativity, but you can be successful with those in-person meetings and being able to follow those COVID safety guidelines. And you might be surprised that some of the sanitation and other things that we're starting to do may just stick around forever after we realize how much all of us are touching the same things and keeping everything clean. So yes, my gift in our host sites was not a fun spinner or other game activity, but it is a great way to start out your COVID safety social distancing club meetings.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. I'm going to pull my PowerPoint back up here, hopefully. I'm going to need to have you give me a thumbs up because I can see you on my screen. Can you see my? Perfect. All right. So thinking of what an awesome 4-H club meeting or workshop looks like, I'm going to have you guys that are joining us virtually type a couple things in the chat box. Those of you that are at a host site, you probably have a couple extra sheets of paper or some of those awesome sticky notes that our 4-H Foundation gave us as well to pass out. I want you to write down 1 or 2 things that in a pre-COVID year, you would have thought an awesome 4-H club meeting looks like. So type those in the chat box, write those down, share them with your host site to get them in the chat box. And we're just going to go over a couple of those answers. So before 2020 hit, what did an awesome club meeting or an awesome 4-H workshop look like?
Can you see those, Katie, now, the chat?
Oh, look, there I can. Woo, yeah. All right, so we've got some games, snacks, presentation of topics, lots of close contact team building, kids talking, group recreation, packed room, youth leadership, maybe some hugging. Awesome. So lots of cool things, group activities, demonstrations of projects. So now I want you to think of some of those things and connect it to 2020. How about an awesome 2020 4-H meeting or event? What would that look like in your minds? Again, type it in the chat box, use those Indiana 4-H Foundation sticky notes. We've got some sanitizer put up there, yeah. So maybe some of those activities can still happen, but maybe with some good sanitizer and some good cleaning. Good attendance is an awesome option. Yep, we want that. Cool masks. Keeping everyone healthy. Yep. Social distancing. Technical difficulties, like today when we're talking about virtual things. We knew that would happen when our group was meeting. We're like, of course it's going to happen to us. Lots of virtual interaction. Absolutely. Those are great ways to bring some of those things that we always got to do before this year and sort of incorporate into a 2024-H meeting. Avoiding Zoom burnout, absolutely. I'm going to toss it over to Kathleen, because one of the things we always do, at least in Hendricks County, and I know some of our other surrounding counties, we always try to incorporate a mixer into our 4-H meetings so that kids can get to know each other. So Kathleen, I'm going to pass it off to you to lead us in a club mixer and what that might look like in 2020.
All right. Thank you so much, Katie. Yes, as we know throughout today, we have seen the energy come up when we've done something hands-on, even if it's at your home, but doing something that gets you physically moving. I'm not going to make you do the 180 jumping jacks that other counties have done, but I do want some movement. So kind of going back to what our keynote said this morning, I have provided the host sites with a would you rather. So we're going to get just some up and down movement of would you rather activity. And so the options I'm going to give you, one is to stay sitting, and the second one will be to stand up. So would you rather be a famous athlete, so stay sitting, or a famous museum? Stand up. Would you rather be a famous athlete, stay sitting, or a famous musician? Stand up. All right, got some good movement. Would you rather watch TV, stay sitting, or read a book? Would you rather watch TV as you're sitting or read a book? All right, we'll do one more because this is a kind of a repeat. Would you rather hang wallpaper or stand up, scrub floors? Would you rather hang wallpaper, sit down, or scrub floors, stand up? Okay, maybe that wasn't the funnest options, but it got you moving. It gets you reset. Sometimes when you're doing a meeting, even if it is in person, you just need that transition. You need that something to get to know. We also want to get to know you. Oh, yes, Katie is showing you the form that is posted online and is in the kits that got sent to the host sites. So you can see that. And I love, stop right there, Katie, on that go get me. This is, it's the scavenger hunt, but it's just a little different name of go get me some items. And we did this one here in Hamilton County when our first Zoom meeting, so back in April, we're like, whoa, how do we even do this? How do we sign on to Zoom and things like that when we were, but it was neat to see, go getting an item, go get me a hairbrush, go get me an adult. Now that one is hilarious to see what adult might be coming by when a youth would grab them and they'd be like, what? Like, hey, they're on Zoom. But I love also at the end to do, go get me a snack. So you go get these items or such, and you can score a point if you'd like. It's all kind of good and fun. But if you have that last one as a snack or go get a drink, now they have something for the meeting part. And so they have brought their own refreshments to that virtual meeting if you have it. So it's kind of taken that like human scavenger hunt, if you were in person activity, to the virtual world. So the last activity I want is for us to utilize something in the Zoom, which I believe has been shared a couple of times, was using the whiteboard. So Katie, if you can pop up a whiteboard for us to annotate on it. I want the topic I would like to mixer, it's just to get some thoughts out there, is what are you most looking forward to in 2021's 4-H year? So if you could type on there that you click up top and you see view and it says annotate, and you can add your comments. So the question is, what are you most looking forward to in 2021's 4-H? You can, at the host sites, if you guys want to collectively just discuss it, and then put one or two up here. But I'm going to give you about, I don't know, a minute or so to take some time for thoughts, because I know we've had very fast pace of, hey, throw up your ideas here, but I really want us to think about what could we do here in 2021 4-H. So I got my timer set. I feel like Jeopardy. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-da-dum. All right. Oh, we got some good things popping up here. If you haven't found the annotate, you can put it in the chat as well. So for you following on YouTube, please do put it in the chat. I forgot we are doing this many, many different ways. Hugging people again, shooting sports, a regular fair, 4-H camp, new programming, fair in June of 2021, interacting with youth and young adults around the state. Ooh, I gotta move my chat to read more. Horse shows with friends, more gatherings and get-togethers. These are great thoughts. And I do hope that we're able to do more of these, but know that whatever way we are interacting, if it is virtual or in person with limited contact, it is still something to still engage, and it still is 4-H. And so hopefully these little tidbits, these little mixers, a little reset of the brain can help beef up your meetings and hopefully have a great, be that in between of what we dream of what we want it to be to what our reality is right now. I'm going to pass the baton back to Miss Katie.
All right, thanks, Kathleen. That was awesome. Hopefully you guys, like she said, those of you that are at host sites, you'll have a handout. This is also going to be uploaded online for you guys to utilize, take back to your 4-Hers to lead some of those mixer activities. And I know our cap note speaker is also going to have some really engaging activities to end with today as well. So the next thing we're going to talk about, Katie already mentioned a little bit, was in-person meetings, and our in-person meetings look a little different this year because first and foremost, we need to make sure we have those safety plans submitted. So talk to your 4-H educators on the proper forms you need to fill out to make sure your safety plan is submitted on time and filled out correctly. We have to send those up to Purdue to actually get certified as well. So make sure that those get done in a timely manner and not 24 hours before your first club meeting. A couple other things, you know, keeping in mind any in-person event needs to make sure they're following the social distancing guidelines set forth by their county, state, Purdue, and that's part of the safety plan that you would talk about as well. Plan appropriate activities. So like Kathleen mentioned, you know, there's some great ways to take what we have been doing in, you know, pre-2020 and adapting those to fit into a 2020 4-H program. And then going back to Katie's virtual and in-person chart that she created. And again, those are available at the host sites as well as online for you to download and review. One of the most unique things I think about in-person meetings this year is that we really encourage a virtual component, which really makes our meetings a hybrid meeting, which is exactly what we're doing today. So as you saw my tech team come in, which was really Pandora from Boone County, because that's where we are today. It might look at something like this, where we have lots of people joining us in person. And even in the next room, you have a group of people participating in activities as well. So to go over some things just to consider as you're walking or thinking about doing a hybrid meeting, which is, you know, what is a hybrid? It is both in-person and virtual options done at the same time. Going back to the in-person stuff should always follow those safety protocols. One of the biggest things that I know I have learned, and Kathleen and Katie are going to pop in whenever they would like as well, but utilizing your officers to help oversee different aspects of the meeting. So we have created in Hendricks County Junior Leaders a tech coordinator, and that person, that junior leader, is actually going to be the person that oversees the chat box and helps me co-manage the virtual component during our junior leader meetings, for either when we are in person and virtually, or even when we just have our virtual meetings. So can someone oversee that? And maybe it's not a junior leader, maybe it's another leader, but having someone connect on the chat box, as well as having someone sort of oversee the in-person meeting, is going to make your lives a little bit easier instead of trying to do both at the same time. Making sure your technology is working. So making sure those of your 4-Hers that are at home can hear and see everything that you're doing, just as the people in your in-person meeting can hear and see the things that you're doing. What does your meeting space look like? Is it going to accommodate both a virtual and an in-person component? Talk with your educators. Maybe there's some ways to have some technology adapted to the situation you're in. Again, I know some counties are looking at purchasing special cameras to be able to utilize during workshops for people to be able to see, again, a really good online as well as what's happening in person. And then think of things like 4-H in a box. I'm going to pass it to Kathleen in a second to talk about that, because I know she's done a lot in Hamilton County. But how can you get supplies to the 4-Hers that maybe aren't comfortable coming in person and want to participate in that virtual format? Is there a drop-off or a pickup that could happen so that they get those supplies? Kathleen, would you like to tell us a little bit about your 4-H in a box?
Yes. Oh, yes. So you might be wondering, why do we need to go to this extra effort? Well, we don't know why people are not able to come to maybe a in-person meeting. So having that hybrid model is kind of what we have to go through, which I know it takes more time. I know it takes more planning on volunteers and more support with junior leaders and older 4-H members. But I do have a story of why it kind of hit home with me, because I didn't do it, and I should know. And that's why it's kind of one of those, I had a reality check. Back in September, we had our junior leader meeting where we had our officers' elections. And it was, everybody's excited. We're getting back to school. It just did not occur to me to still have a Zoom option. And we were wondering, we had some older 4-H members that we didn't see around, and we were like, oh, I hope they're okay, because I'm always worried as older 4-H members are driving to my events. I worry about their safety and things like that. And the next day I had a 4-Her who was a higher ranking officer of last year. She said, I'm sorry, I missed the meeting. I wasn't able to be there to lead because I'm in quarantine through contact tracing. And she didn't need to tell me that, but I should have offered an opportunity for her to participate in our process. Especially, it was an election year, our election meeting. So we're still going to plug in that this youth, but she did not have her peers. She was not on the ballot for things because of not being able to attend, and so she just wanted to make sure I knew why she wasn't at that meeting. But I, as a leader, should not have had to put her in that situation. So I always remember, even meetings that aren't election meetings or things like that, we still want to provide an opportunity for anybody that is just kind of caught with these safety precautions that we have out there now, even if they were in contact tracing, quarantine for their own health. We just need to think about those things right now, and I did not. And so I had that experience to have that thought now. So I just wanted to provide that personal, because it does change the trajectory of our youth that we're involved with if they weren't able to run for an office and be plugged into our program in different ways. But yes, Katie talked about, we have lots of 4-H in a bag programming. So we here in Hamilton County during this summer really focused on how do we get access to our programming? How do we get supplies to people? So we put workshops in a bag. We put a program called 4-H Gold, go outside, learn, discover together. And that was kind of all of our outside projects like forestry, wildlife. I'm not going to be able to name them all, geocaching, but we put a series together so that way youth can either do it on their own, or we set up some Zoom calls. I believe it was like 4 o'clock on Tuesdays for 4 Tuesdays in a row, but so they could be connected during that time that we were not allowed to do in-person programming at all. But that doesn't mean 4-H stopped during that time. We kept workshops going. I had many volunteers that tweaked their programming, their workshops, and made videos and sent them to me, or popped in our office and we taped them out in our garden and had some videos that we popped up. Older 4-H members, lots of great videos I've seen for content experts like on foods or livestock. That way we can still have those workshops and educational components. And that way, you know what? I can go back and find them now. So I didn't miss that X workshop on what day. But those are the type of opportunities that we're going to have to think about. How do we do this hybrid model? Because 2021, even though with those mixer dreams of wanting things the way they were, we also have to go forward and say, you know, we can do this and we can do it well. Because I know you guys have really stepped up in this last 8 months. So that's how we've done that in Hamilton County, of kind of putting programming, either packets together that youth and parents can come by and get. We've even personally been Amazon and dropped them off at a porch when it was something that I'm like, I'm not sure how I'm going to mail a container garden, but I can get that to them. So we have to think totally outside the box, even if sometimes it is delivering the box.
Thanks, Kathleen. And Katie had mentioned earlier too that everybody would get a handout, or it's also available online. Katie, do you want to talk really quick? You have given this to club leaders, correct? For those hybrid meetings, in-person meetings, before we go on to the next thing.
Yes, so we have created club kits, is what I call them, safety club kits, and it's similar to the box that was given at the host sites. But it has been great because we had a little training on how to have a COVID meeting. The clubs know that they can pick up their COVID kit at our office, or if they meet here on our facilities, they are in our closet, they can just pull those out. And if they already meet on our facilities, their attendance books are in there, they just pull those out, and it is really great. One of our best groups is our entomology club. They have 20 kids coming to practice and get ready for our virtual CDE this year. So they have done so fantastic. All the kids sit 7+ feet apart. They wear their masks, they get their temperature taken, and they are learning and they're having a blast. And so you can really do this. And to touch kind of what Kathleen said, something that was great for our workshops this year and to think about is when you do virtual, you can bring in people to do workshops for your kids from across the country. You do not have to have your county person presenting a workshop, because you can have anyone from around the country Zoom in and present, and they can do live activities with livestock or with any projects that you want them to do. We've had things from sheep showmanship to rabbit butchering done virtually to present to our youth for our workshops this year. So just remember that technology, while it can be scary, is awesome to provide opportunities that we've never been able to do before.
So the last thing type of meeting that we're going to talk to you guys about today is virtual meetings. So we know that several of our counties around the state have already made the decision to be able to do 4-H things strictly virtual for right now for the state of the county that it's in. Some counties may not be there yet, but may happen at some point. Or bad weather, because it's Indiana and, you know, we like to gamble on what the weather's going to do every day. So we wanted to just go over a couple of virtual meeting tips and tricks to help you guys as you're planning your meetings and programs. At the host sites, there's going to be 2 handouts that we will go over, and then we will also share those. I'll pull them up on the screen here in a minute. For those that are joining us online, you can download those as well on the website. So make sure first and foremost, you research your platform. So whatever you're going to have your meeting on, whether it is Zoom, like this meeting is being held on. I know it's also on YouTube. We're going live on YouTube, which is awesome. There's also different options such as WebEx or GoToMeeting. Find the platform that's going to work best for you and your club. Talk to your 4-H educator. Maybe they have a paid Zoom account where they can set up meetings to help and give you host access to that. Make sure you're going to go over virtual meeting etiquette, and we're going to go over that handout here in a minute. Be engaging, and we'll talk about a couple examples, and then we are going to also talk about some virtual meeting examples. So I'm going to share my handout now. And so when you're doing virtual meeting etiquette, this is one of the handouts available at the host sites and online. We have some do's and don'ts of virtual meeting etiquette. This is a great handout to be able to give to your 4-H members, or if you are a leader that helps maybe mentor other leaders. This is also something that leaders have found useful. So we want to make sure if you're doing a virtual meeting, test your technology, make sure it works. As you saw at the beginning of our presentation, we had some hiccups as we were transitioning, and that happens. Do mute your mic when not speaking. That is pretty common practice right now. So having your 4-Hers reminding them to stay muted unless they have questions or need something to unmute themselves. Remember that you are on camera. So having great backgrounds, making sure things are appropriate all around, making sure, you are dressed appropriately, which is another do. Today, a lot of us are wearing our Purdue polos or some sort of Purdue 4-H swag. That's a great way. We have done mini 4-H meetings virtually where we encourage our mini 4-Hers to all wear one color if they can, to just sort of make it fun and exciting for them to join us. Make sure you're speaking clearly and being engaging. So there's a difference between us trying to have some activities and us just talking like this the entire time. And on the do not side, do not multitask, because I can totally tell, and I told my junior leaders this, I can tell when you look down versus when you look up, and it's not going to be super exciting, I'm assuming, looking all the way down. So it's better to look up, be engaged, make sure, you are engaged with the camera and the screen, as well as your 4-Hers. Do not have an inappropriate background. Zoom gives us the option to have some really fun backgrounds, and I know we've seen a couple today. So make sure you have a fun background or something that's going to be appropriate for having 4-H meetings virtually. While we're not telling you not to eat totally, it's probably best practice to not eat while on camera. Make sure, again, going back to the remembering you're on camera and what you say can and will be heard. So please don't use inappropriate words or pictures while you're presenting to your 4-Hers. And do not expect everything to be perfect. Again, we're doing our thing on how to have virtual meetings and be engaged virtually. And we know things aren't going to always work perfectly. So that's where patience comes in. Make sure that you're also not making private meetings public. So be aware of your 4-Hers safety. I know that Zoom has set into place a lot of precautions, such as having meeting room passwords or making sure that there's a waiting room for people to be able to get on, so that you're only approving people that should be joining your 4-H meeting, actually join your 4-H meeting. And then on this handout, there's a lot of other tips and tricks with links that you can visit at a later date. The other handout is just an overview of some different virtual platforms, as well as some more virtual meeting etiquette. So there are pros and cons to everything that's out there. Schools might be using one thing and you might be using something else at home. Again, finding what's going to work best for you is really important. So those are great handouts for you guys to have. And to share my screen again. Being engaging. And another thing is, while like our speaker did this morning and Kathleen did a little bit ago, if you're going to engage the youth on something online, make sure you explain it to them. So whether that's even something as simple as using the chat box, just a reminder of where that chat box button is going to be is very helpful to make sure that everybody's on the same page and understands where they need to be. And I mentioned having someone in charge of monitoring the chat. That's really helpful, so you don't have to have your attention going 6 different ways to try and make sure stuff is happening and that it's all working appropriately. There's lots of different ways to also be engaged through different websites. So things like Kahoot, which is like an online game show type platform. Kids can put in questions, or you can create questions and kids can participate virtually that way. Finding things that are going to engage kids even more so than just having them watch a screen. Great example. And I'm looking at our time. I want to take just 1 minute, and please type in the chat box if you would like, or again at your host site, share maybe some different engaging resources that you have used in a virtual meeting setting if you've had the opportunity to participate in a virtual meeting. So I have my timer set, 1 minute. I don't have the Jeopardy theme song memorized like Kathleen did.
You gotta do it twice because it's 30 seconds each time. So FYI. And I realized that I was like, oh, I think I did it halfway. Lots of good stuff popping up. Would you like me to say?
Sure.
Using the whiteboard on Zoom, Quizlet Live, Kahoot, the Jeopardy game, Google Meets. Quizlet.
I saw Minty and Slido as well.
Virtual field trips. Jamboard.
All right, time up. Time is up. Those are some great options. Google Classroom, I see, is the last thing come in, one of the last things that came in. That is something I know a lot of 4-H educators are looking at utilizing for different programs as well. So we want to take all of the different meetings platforms that we have talked through today, and we are going to do another activity to kind of round out our program. And again, we want to find what's going to work best for you and what's going to be your comfort level. So I know I have had multiple conversations with club leaders, project leaders that aren't comfortable hosting in-person meetings, and that's perfectly fine. With some great virtual resources, they've been able to have some very, very engaging virtual programs. Excuse me. So we are going to practice. Those of you that are at a host site should have printed out some scenarios. And those of you that are joining us virtually, you guys will also have some scenarios that we will pull up here. And we are going to go over what we would like for you to do. Those of you that are at a host site, we're going to give you a couple minutes here. And we would like you to go over, there are 5 different examples of scenarios that might happen in your county, and we would like you guys to split off into groups, maybe each take one, and then we're going to report back on 1 or 2 of these in just a little bit. So you can go ahead and mute us. We'll go for like 2 minutes or so, 2 or 3 minutes, and those of you that are joining virtually, we're going to walk you through these as well. So go ahead and mute us. And okay, and they're getting that. You want to have an in-person club meeting. What do? You are a club leader planning a hybrid meeting. What are some things you can do to help make your virtual youth feel included? And finally, you are the junior leader president at your meeting, and you hear one member questioning why Susie, another member, wasn't in person at this meeting, even though she was at the community service project a few days ago. You don't want rumors to get started in the club, so what can you do? So if you guys want to take some time, and I will pull these back up, put these in the chat box, put some answers in the chat box. We'll go over those. And Katie, Kathleen, I'm going to have you guys monitor the chat box and help lead that while I pull up my timer.
Okay, we have to have an in-person 4-H club, you have to have everyone bring their own chair and maybe sit outside for social distancing and also wear masks. Yeah, that was the nice thing about the warmer weather, was having a lot of parking lot meetings or go to a park and bring your own lawn chair. I've even met some of my colleagues that way. We needed to not have a Zoom meeting, but have some in person. So we all brought our lunch and went to a parking lot and ate that in the back of our vehicles. Got examples of, I did a voting with a thumbs up for yay or nay with the reactions. Elections can be used with the Jamboard or polling in the Zooms. Yeah, it's true. We have not today shown a Zoom poll, but a lot, you can check with your county extension office. The licensing that we have allows for polls, and so you can have our office set up a meeting. We could pass hosting duties if you would want to have a meeting with lots of polls. I'm not sure if the free version, the 40-minute version of Zoom has that option. Getting a lot of shaking heads, so nope. Okay, that's what I thought. God, they come so fast.
All right, we're gonna come back. We're seeing, yep, come back.
Have a link for voting. There's lots of good voting ones. Have a link to a Google form that can be sent out so everybody, no matter if they're in person or at home, can do an online voting. You can then pass and print out the voting forms in person. That's a good point. The Quizlet Live.
Those of you, I'm doing my hand thing so that those of you that are still maybe muted at the host side, if you want to come back. We're going to wrap up. All right, so we are going to wrap up here so we can get to our cap note speaker. Unfortunately, we won't have time to go over all those scenarios, but talk to your 4-H educator if you have questions on how any of those should be handled. With our PowerPoint, we do have lots of resources that we would like to share with you all as we finish up here today. I do want to show just one more thing. We've got 1 minute. So some of the resources we have, Purdue Extension, the Indiana 4-H website, there is a Creating Productive Virtual Youth Opportunities. That link is provided on our handout as well, but there's lots of different resources there. Some other examples include the University of California has a 4-H virtual toolbox. The National 4-H has 4-H at Home, which has a lot of great resources that could be adapted to club meetings as well. And using your creativity to do something, our junior leaders has put together a Google site to host our a lot of our information, and that's actually how we did elections as well this year. So hopefully you guys have learned a little bit about some tips and tricks on virtual meetings, hybrid meetings, and in-person meetings. And we are excited to hear from our cap note speaker on some more ways to make things engaging too.
All right, ladies, thank you. Katie, and Kathleen, thank you so much for presenting today. Lots of good things that we need to know, and lots of good experiences we've had, which is also a good thing. And so hopefully we can continue to use those coming up in the future.